this one? I wouldn't know.
I got it. Wait. Yeah.
Strong.
Crazy. Like always.
Yeah, you know, we let the air out, right?
Yeah, that's an extra told you.
That's
This
what
dude
I got on
ain't
inside.
doing that.
Okay.
Classes.
Correctional institutions, starting on chapter 10.
I'm gonna have to start letting you type this stuff up. You know me and doing paragraph form.
Oh, we got a minute.
I'm like Aldrich, I'm like, da-da-da.
This one I
da-da.
actually,
Like,
this
We have
one,
a test on Tuesday. Just on chapter 2.
I used to.
You got a motion here.
I was so scared to use it.
Wow.
I don't.
Georgia.
Screw it up, you know.
They,
Talks about earlier.
they put like a whole brand new list of updates on, I'm like, I'm gonna skip all that.
Yeah.
You know, this and this on the.
Hey, I thought they were still here talking, I'm sorry.
I'll be good.
Except for the day we got mad, that's the one maybe our God didn't even need it.
All right.
Exactly 12. So
I thought it was.
yeah.
You got somebody get the notes?
Yeah, I was gonna say if I was
Like, are you being third degree? We just lost.
Sounds good. Yeah, just be careful.
I'm like, what does it matter? He's coming.
Take it to the class. How many folks are in Beckley today? I can't, is there 5?
6.
6.
Okay, that's everybody, right?
Yes.
So.
Okay, good deal. You all have your tests?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Is she on her way with them?
Couldn't tell you.
Don't know, but I'll go find out.
Yeah, would somebody please go just remind her that it's test time? She has those tests.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure did.
Yeah.
it's bad.
Yeah, I know.
You're gonna be fine. This test isn't gonna be too hard. It's not too tricky.
Wednesdays and Thursdays are rough.
Are we gonna need our own paper?
No. If you would, go ahead and put your cell phones up as quick as they get back. We'll get ready to take this test. After we take this test, if y'all would, just step outside into the hall, be quiet till everybody else can finish up. When you come back in here, then we're gonna start talking about, CompStat and, NCIC. Guess that's the rest of the day. Yes. Probably not. I don't think you're ready. You probably just need to step on out in the hall and we'll get right back with you. All right. I didn't think you'd be ready. Put your name on this, folks.
It helps with it.
Somehow we got on top of the strippers last night.
Oh no. I'm glad I wasn't in there.
Good. It was a fun day.
It was a fun night.
All right, put your name on there. Put your name on it, answer the questions, be sure to give a shot at the bonus question, will you? Did she give us an answer?
She's here.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. Just write your name on every page so you have to get it all back.
You all put your name on that, answer the questions, answer the bonus question, at least take a stab at that bonus question, total possible 10 points, and then hand those back in to her, and we will get ready to jump into our next part of our class. Yes, number, what is it, 13? 14 says, it should say, the third step on the use of force continuum is called less than lethal force. That's what the question is asking. I wasn't clear. I didn't make it very clear.
13?
The third step, 14. The third step on the scale, on the use of force continuum is called less than lethal force, is what the question should say. Is that what it's called? Is that what the third step is called? Now, don't answer out loud. That's what the test question wants you to do. You all get that, Beckley?
Yes.
Okay. Apparently I didn't type that question clearly, but I wanna make sure that's the question. I wanna know what the third step is called. Is it called less than lethal?
Thank you.
You might be mad at me time we get that. No, just step out in the hallway and he had to go because he's got a doctor for him. If y'all will just step out in the hallway, then you'll come back in. 'Cause we gotta cover tons of material.
done over here, Mr. Resnick.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
I've got just a couple more here in Bluefield, Beckley. If y'all give me just a minute, we'll jump right back into class.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know what, I thought about rerolling one. I was like, man,
Pyramid, or can you just pyramid? Oh, okay, right, draw me the pyramid. Well, I got all everything that we can do. So,
The lowest level of force is at your bottom, the highest level of force.
I don't know much to do anyway, except it's. Really can't much no kidding.
Second
what
thing,
about pyramids upside down?
I understand. Whatever I can do to help, let me know. I'll be.
Yep.
Really nice. Cindy, she's awesome. I couldn't understand a lot of women's things, so I kind of made her. It's just like, yeah, thank you. Yeah, you see, pretty much. Yeah. Friendly, like, revolver.
Critical eye, you'll go far, you'll do well. You're gonna do well. Just every opportunity is an opportunity to learn.
I'm enjoying learning.
You are Gibson,
I'm gonna
right?
hate leaving school, to be honest.
Gibson? Well, don't hate it because it's a lot, every experience in police work is an opportunity to learn.
Yeah.
Your school becomes the world.
Right.
Every encounter gives you an opportunity to learn something new.
That's all. That's right, you said the exact same thing. You did. Just different style of learning.
That's right. All right, y'all come on back in. This really be ready in just a minute.
Murders are your bestie, and enemies, they don't have any angry. Yeah, you just yelling and stuff.
They're usually
They're the best.
any homework that's supposed to be due, last Thursday.
We covered last Thursday, we covered the court cases, I'll have to read. Where we
I was looking at the notes she gave me, I had said, something said about homework things.
You take some time, classes.
I didn't mean to have it. You wanna talk about it?
Yeah, I spoke up with that, I just.
I know she wasn't here. Hope Smith didn't make it. Ayers.
My other homework on email.
So, I mean, so
If
far.
not, I gotta bring it.
Chase off?
Hasn't so far.
All right, so I asked you all to dig up for me and find the information for me on CompStat, did I not? Let's start with CompStat. Yes, no, maybe?
It was developed by Jack Maple and William Bratton.
Hold
For
on
the
just
New
a second,
York-
let me turn y'all's volume up, I didn't realize y'all were, you're pretty high. All right, tell me that again.
Was developed by Jack Maple and William Bratton for the New York City Police Department.
All right, what was its primary focus?
Just collecting statistics, basically. Maple collected a bunch of statistics. Bratton used those statistics to predict future crime patterns. And that's what started it.
Great.
At the time, New York City was one of the worst cities in the United States, crime-wise. And then Mayor Giuliani came in and they decided to change that, and that was their main tool they used to combat crime.
And what do we know, does somebody else want to chip in here? What kind of statistics did we gather on CompStat? What did we gather?
I remember reading that, 1/3 of all police departments in the country that have 100 or more officers assigned are currently using it or some version of it.
I can believe that, right. Over 1/3 of all departments with 100 officers or more. I want to know what kind of information CompStat is gathering. What kind of details are we getting? In other words, they're saying they use that information to help fight crime. What information are they gathering to give them an idea of how we're going to fight crime?
They used crime complaints, arrest summaries,
All right.
significant cases of crime patterns that was going on,
Okay. So
and locations.
He's talked about 2 or 3 different things there. One of the things he said was crime reports, arrests. Now, the one thing that I would I don't know that I would challenge you on, but one of the things that should be happening here with CompStat is CompStat should put all this information together, and it may or may not flag a trend, but we as the people who read it ought to be able to look there and begin to see trends, right? Begin to see trends and patterns. And CompStat may very well flag trends and patterns. That's what, that may be part of what CompStat does. But part of what we do is interpret those trends and patterns. What else do we look at?
Times that things are happening.
And times and days of the week, right? Times
Yes.
in the 24-hour day and days of the week. You'd be surprised what different jurisdictions come out with different days of the week. When I was talking to Fox last semester in Princeton, their weird day, their heavy day was like Thursday. The young man I had from Bluefield West that said in this class, he said Tuesdays was their weird day. That they were just crazy busy on Tuesday. A lot of criminal type stuff happened on Tuesdays and Tuesday nights. Whenever I worked, our busy nights was either Monday or Wednesday. It rotated. Some nights Monday all day, and Monday night was just crazy busy. And sometimes you would, if you knew, and you pretty much knew if you were dead on Monday, Wednesday was going to be a killer. It was either Monday or Wednesday, depending.
I figured it'd be the weekend.
And there again, that's the conventional wisdom, but not necessarily. We didn't have CompStat where I worked, so my best guess would be, that most of the folks in the jurisdiction I was in waited on their check. And the checks either came on the 1st or the 15th during the week, and they didn't want to wait till the weekend. It was usually a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday kind of thing, yeah. But now I don't know what your answer would be in a town like Princeton. I don't know what the answer would be in a town like Bluefield. And it would be interesting to know what crime pattern, what day of the week was really bad in different precincts in a big city like New York. I think that would be interesting to know. But that's the type of thing that CompStat, they're going to gather police reports, arrest reports, reports of crime. The other things they're going to gather are not only citizens' reports of crime, but officers' incident reports. Maybe an officer is on patrol and he enters a report that he encountered an unusual suspect but made no arrest. It's also going to try to compile all of those different pieces of information. So having compiled all that, the obvious thing that it does, that CompStat does, that it's used for, and he said it there in Beckley, is it's used to fight crime. We use it to try to look at patterns, trends, tendencies. Not only do we look at patterns, trends, and tendencies. I can't say that, I get it out. But we also look at new and emerging crime. It gives you an idea of what new crimes tend to be trending up, what new kinds of crime are on the rise, and what traditionally we may be focused on may be waning. So it gives us an opportunity to look at all those things and to fight crime and to be quite proactive. But there's some other things that happen because of CompStat that I want you all to be aware of. CompStat didn't just stop at the police, at the edge of the police, saying, yeah, we're going to be proactive and we're going to really get after this from a law enforcement standpoint. It had some farther reaching effects. What were those? Anybody got any ideas?
I know that Martin O'Malley, Maryland's governor, created something similar for the city of Baltimore and then for the state of Maryland.
That's right.
To oversee and manage multiple government agencies at once.
Right. And really what he's doing with that, not only is he helping his police force to be proactive and to modernize and help them gather that data, but the other thing he's doing is he's gathering all of this data to put in front of his legislators, to put in front of his policymakers, to put in front of the people who are going to create the law that we are going to enforce. So CompStat kind of inadvertently is helping to create crime policy or government policy on crime. Okay? Because those who are proactive, Governor O'Malley and others, are using the data that they're mining not only to enforce, because they're not enforcing, they're legislators, they're state executives, they're looking at it and saying, here's where our laws need to be improved, here's where laws we can take off the books that aren't applicable anymore, and here are things that we need to add, right? And they're using that based on that data. So that's one huge piece. And the other place that they are using it is the government is looking at CompStat and telling the police departments and telling law enforcement. Even the federal government looks at these CompStat numbers and begins to tell their agencies, here's how we can spend our money better. Here's where our funds need to go. Here's where we can make better use of our money. Here's how we want you to use the money, what we want you to use the money for based on this data. So CompStat not only created some proactive policing, but it also changed how crime policy is established, and it's also changed how the government looks at spending government money. Right?
Hasn't the FBI been doing that with the UCR since like the 1930s though?
Yes, but not to this degree, because here's what happens. A UCR, even in the 1930s, only gave you part of the picture. If it wasn't a reported incident, if it wasn't something that fell into the UCR so that they could forward that report up, in other words, a serious crime, then a lot of stuff went unreported. You had a lot of things that didn't fall into the UCR. You had a lot of crimes that weren't reported, period. You had a lot of things that the UCR didn't cover. So yes, in a limited way, the UCR kind of started that way. I'll go with that. But the two very big differences are, and not only that, but back in the day, UCRs were not mandatory. If a state didn't want to participate and submit their UCRs to the FBI, there's nothing the FBI could do about it. Today, this CompStat is a spatial bit of software. Now, what I mean by spatial is it can break your precinct down, it can break your patrol area down into grids, and it can give you a real-time, real piece of information about the types of crime and the clusters of crime. So it gives you an opportunity to know where your hot spots are. It gives you an opportunity to know what types of crime are happening in what areas. And it gives you a broader, more complete picture of what's going on. I will agree with you that the UCRs was a very crude beginning, but this CompStat is a very complete picture of what's going on in a particular jurisdiction over a particular time frame, and it gives you a spatial reference. What I mean by spatial is those dots will pop up on the map and give you an idea of where crime is happening and how often crime is happening, and it allows you to look at trends and patterns and hotspots much more closely than the UCR ever did. And with the automated technology we've got, this UCR can reach out and get, or no, excuse me, not UCR, but CompStat can reach out and gather all of this data. All the tech people have got to do inside the police department is make sure that CompStat talks to all the computers in the department, right? Whether it's a laptop in the patrolman's car or it's the computer that he uses to fill out a report at his desk, whatever that case may be, and they can gather all that information and give it back to the people who are making decisions in real time. UCRs tend to lag behind by several months. Yes?
I couldn't find out for sure, but it sounded like everything was referring to CompStat as a theory or a protocol versus an actual software program or a hardware piece of machinery.
No, it is a software program. It's actually up and running.
Okay.
Yeah, it does exist. The place where it's began, as he said earlier today, was New York. Its conception was in New York. And it began in New York kind of on a trial basis, and it was so successful and did so well that New York has just kind of adopted it, and it's begun to spread out. Most of your major cities are using CompStat. Even the whole state of Maryland's using CompStat. The issue now with CompStat is one of money. CompStat is not. Take, for example, you have your Richmond City Police Department. God knows they need CompStat, or Charleston. But your technology is so far behind. CompStat itself is not that expensive, okay? But your technology is so far behind with these departments where they haven't upgraded, they haven't bought the material, they haven't got the technology that they need as far as computers and laptops and computers in the cars and those types of things, that in order to bring the department technology up to where it needs to be so that CompStat can do what it does and be effective would cost millions of dollars. That seems to be the holdup right now. And places don't want to spend that money to bring the technology up to where it needs to be so that CompStat can do its job, right? Because if you put the technology there, CompStat can mine that data and gather it all together for you and give you a real-time spatial map of really what's going on in your district, your precinct, and your patrol area. The problem is CompStat's only as good as the information it gets. And if you don't bring the rest of that department up to technology standards so CompStat can read it, then CompStat's useless. And so therein lies the problem with some of your mid-level departments like Charleston, Richmond, Roanoke. Although I will say, Roanoke doesn't use it, but I will tell you this: of all of the mid-level cities around that I have been to, that I have looked at, that I have talked to, the most progressive department anywhere around, as far as using technology and being proactive and trying to prevent crime is Roanoke. Roanoke is a super progressive department. They do an excellent job. And their focus is on crime prevention. Now, they do a lot of arresting, but their focus is on crime prevention. And they do an excellent job. They are really, really on top of it. You know, really modern type of department. They do an excellent job. However, they don't use CompStat because they're, again, you're talking about bringing their department up, you know, technology-wise would be millions of dollars. And the city's just not capable of, you know, kicking that ball down the road.
Do you see any, federal funding going into this, making it available for?
I do for larger cities. I don't see it happening for the smaller cities. What I see coming down the road is this. All of these states are strapped for money, all these eastern states, and y'all can agree or disagree, but I think that where the money is getting ready to come from is all of these eastern states are modeling and watching what's happening in Colorado and watching the money flow into Colorado and watching Colorado's money woes go out the window and watching to see what happens to their crime. They're going to let them simmer for 4 or 5 years to see what happens to crime, see what happens to that kind of stuff. And if the crime rate doesn't skyrocket and if society stays pretty constant in Colorado and everything runs along pretty good for 4 or 5 years, you'll start, and the money keeps flowing in Colorado, what you're going to start to see is these other states follow suit and legalize marijuana and tax it heavy and pull that money in. Because Colorado is the only state in the union right now that's got money to spend. And they got lots of it to spend. And so what I see happening, based purely on revenue, is the legalization of marijuana is going to start creeping across the United States to the eastern seaboard and up and down the eastern seaboard. And the folks are going to use that money for infrastructure, for crime reduction, for upgrading their police forces, for those types of things.
State roads.
Well, I read something the other day that they were bashing the legalization of marijuana because it said that there would overall be less arrests, less police, less crime if you took that as a criminal element out of the equation. But then I see what you're saying as far as that would overall increase revenue, which you can dump back into the police. And
I don't think it's going to reduce crime. I don't necessarily think that it's going to increase crime, but I don't think it will reduce crime.
I don't either.
No, I mean-
That's what Colorado showed, that it didn't increase, that it's pretty much leveled out and stayed the same.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, but that's just, I mean, we're just kind of spitballing here. I don't see it increasing crime. Now, you will have the proponents of legalization of marijuana who are going to say that it will increase crime and it's not, you know, it's not good for society and it demoralizes and it doesn't. And then you're going to have those people who say it doesn't, and you're going to have the argument on both sides. But from just, and I've got my own opinions outside of law enforcement, but just strictly from a law enforcement perspective, I don't see the legalization of marijuana having that much effect criminally on what goes on in any particular state. Because there is the criminal element, if you will, is so focused on the harder drugs. Right now in southern West Virginia and southwest Virginia, Oxycontin and oxycodone are the drugs of choice. In Tazewell County right now, they have made Oxycontin so hard to get that Oxy pills are selling for $2 a milligram. An Oxy 40 is $80 in Tazewell. They made it so hard to get that that's what they're selling for on the street. And so consequently, and that's the drug of choice. That's what everybody wants. So consequently, those folks who recreationally smoke marijuana, the focus kind of goes away from them because you're talking about, you know, a dime bag of marijuana. It becomes not that big a deal. You're not talking about that much money. You're not talking about that much pot. You're not talking about that many, you know, 20 years ago, a dime bag of marijuana, woo, what a bust, you know, but not now. So I don't see it creating a huge difference.
Well, the only reason I said that is because a lot of the charges that are given out, a lot of the people in current regional jail right now are there because of marijuana. If you make that legal, then isn't that going to cut down on a big percentage of the population that's getting locked up for that?
Yes and no. I'll say that there are some folks who are in there, but not just only for marijuana.
Okay.
Having been there, it's usually a plethora of things. Yeah. Marijuana is just part of the
one of many drugs.
Well, and one of many criminal activities.
Okay.
Marijuana.
The problem I see with marijuana is marijuana kind of equates itself with criminal activity. It kind of falls in line with criminal activity. But legalizing it doesn't take away the rest of the criminal activity these people are going to be engaged in. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
B&Es, all of this other stuff. And that therein lies a lot of the problem that you have when you start talking about, is drug substance abuse a medical problem, not a criminal problem? Well, I'm a firm believer, thank you. I am a firm believer that substance abuse in and of itself needs to be treated as though it's a medical problem. I think you have to hold people accountable. I think you have to make the arrest. I think you have to lock people up. But I think we as a society are missing a step when we don't try to provide some rehabilitative services to people who are actively seeking rehabilitative services. Now, we lock up people all the time who get high, who use drugs, who stay high, who don't want no help. And there's 2 or 3 things in the world that's impossible to do, and one of them is help somebody who don't want it. And if they don't want any help and they're heading down that road, get it. You'll be back. But when you arrest people and they say, look, I'm tired of this, I'm tired of this lifestyle, I'm tired of doing this stuff, I need help getting off this dope, you know, I don't want to do this anymore, I don't want to come back to prison, those are the people that we should actively engage and see what we can do about providing them the services to get off the dope after the arrest, after the prison sentence. But herein lies the problem. Most of the time, these people are not only engaged in substance abuse, most of the time they're engaged in other criminal activity. I promise you, the guy that got shot 19 times up at Kelsey's, I don't know what that had anything to do with, but I would almost bet my wallet the drugs was involved. You don't think so?
I know. We talked about
What
it
was
last
it?
night in class.
What was it, a girlfriend?
Yep.
Yeah, 2 girls were fighting or something like that, and the guy was trying to, I've heard multiple stories.
I promise, you get big and they still drugs in there somewhere.
I'm sure it's
Girlfriend.
either that or alcohol.
But the case, the point I'm trying to make is that you have those types of behaviors, and substance abuse is usually just one of the tip of the iceberg, right? Because substance abuse kind of leads you down a slippery slope, and next thing you know, you're breaking law to support your habit. Unfortunately, most of these girls out here on the avenue that's turning tricks are addicted. I mean, they wouldn't be out there if they wasn't. They're doing what they got to do to try to make enough money to get another fix. And nobody cares enough about these girls out here on the boulevard turning tricks to provide them with some services to get them cleaned up, which is what needs to happen. Instead of locking them up for prostitution and locking them up for drug possession and all the things that we're doing, and maybe you still lock them up, but at some point we're going to have to offer them some services and clean them up, because then they're ready to get back into society and get a job and start living. Because right now, I'm going to tell you right now, y'all, I've seen it. I've arrested these women. I've seen it. The most hopeless person in despair is a 20-something woman who's turning tricks to support her habit. She don't see herself living to 30. So what does she care? It's sad. It's really sad.
This area is really low on rehabilitation services.
Not only this area, but the whole country. But we've got off on that. But that's kind of the CompStat, and that's how CompStat works. And those are the pieces that I wanted you to know about CompStat. Tell me again, young man, who's the 2 people that started CompStat in New York?
Mabel and Barton.
All right, good, thank you. Excellent work. So now, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about NCIC. Somebody tell me about NCIC. What does it stand for? When did it start? Where did it come from? What is it? National Crime Information Center. What is it?
It's a huge database of, criminal activity, I guess is what you'd say.
Say it louder. You're on the right track.
Yeah.
NCIC keeps records of criminal records, fugitives, stolen property, missing persons, fugitives on the law. It's available to the federal, state, and local departments, available 24 hours a day, 365. It has restricted access, passwords, doors, locks, user restraints, alarm keys, situation reports. It has routine maintenance.
It does.
Every 6 months to a year, depending on the department. We have one actually in West Virginia. a main database is in Clarksburg.
Oh, I didn't realize that. That's excellent work.
Clarksburg, West Virginia.
So NCIC has a main data center in Clarksburg. I didn't realize that. Good work.
Yeah, the FBI's hiring 230 some people, and their staff is gonna be at 2,000, here in about 2 years.
Wow,
In
really?
Clarksburg.
So they're growing the Clarksburg office
Right
then,
in DC.
right?
Well, in
30-minute
Clarksburg,
train.
oh, it's like,
That's
Yeah.
exactly what they wanted.
Kinda out
Yeah.
there.
You got it. So here's some of the things that you need to know about, the NCIC that I wanted you to dig up. I wanted you to dig up that one of the major things that they do, not only do they keep up, and we talked about this in class the other day, not only do they keep up with stolen guns and stolen vehicles and stolen items of all kinds, so that if you pull over somebody and they've got 2 guns in the back of their car and you run the serial number and those 2 guns are stolen, bing, bing, it pops up. As long as they're reported and entered into NCIC. That's one of the functions. The other function is that it makes you aware of a fugitive. You want to have tingly feeling crawl up your spine. You pull over a car with 3 or 4 people in it and you've never seen any of them before and they got out-of-state tags and they hand you their driver's license and you start running everybody to see who's what, and the dispatcher comes back on and says, "We have a wanted person, stand by." And you're like, "What do you mean stand by? What's he wanted for? I got time to stand by. I got a wanted person. Is he wanted for murder?" Well, you know, and so there's a lot of tension there till they get back to you and tell you what he's wanted for. But that information is entered and you have the ability then to intercept those people and make those arrests. It's a very good law enforcement tool. Now, the biggest piece that they do is criminal histories. Every time somebody gets arrested, every time somebody gets convicted, every time you are charged, that information goes into the NCIC computer and it is compiled under your name, your date of birth, your social security number. That person is assigned 2 numbers. Actually, some of them have 4 or 5, but basically I want you to understand there's 2 types of numbers. The first one is a state number. The state number of the arresting state. If you were arrested in Virginia, it'll say Virginia State ID number, and it'll have like a 9-digit number. Then the next number down below it is the FBI number. The FBI assigns that person a number. And it's like a 9 or a 10-digit number, right? And that's how if you have 2 Willie Johnsons, and one Willie Johnson lives in San Bernardino and one Willie Johnson lives in Fort Lauderdale, you can keep those 2 separate with that FBI number. I used to know 2 people named William Brown. One was an African American and one was a white guy. They were all the time getting confused for each other on paper. And they were always like, "It ain't me." And people are like, "Yeah, right." "No, really, it ain't me." But they were both William Brown, which is, you know, if you think about it, that's kind of a generic name, right? William Brown, a lot of William Browns probably. But these 2 guys had they were born the same month, the same year, and they were within 7 or 8 days of each other on their birth date. I mean, it would be really close on paper. You can see where it would be confusing. Yeah.
My name is Stephanie Pitzer. They had the same middle initial, and the woman just died like a month ago, and she said she had so many people call at her house, "What happened? Are you okay?"
Yeah. I mean, it's not uncommon, but that FBI number keeps that from happening, keeps the ID, you know, your ID from getting messed up. So, what's the importance of a criminal history? Well, you know what that person's capable of. As we learn in a lot of our other classes, especially you criminology folks, where are you? Tell me. The best predictor of future behavior is?
Past behavior.
Past behavior. Good. Excellent. So as we look at somebody's criminal history, we now have the tool to know what type of individual we're dealing with and what risk level we're dealing with, right? The judge uses it on sentencing. So that is probably the biggest piece of information that you have there is that criminal history. It takes a huge force to update the criminal history from every person who gets charged from every state. If you have ever been arrested, you have an FBI number and will always have an FBI number. Questions?
What happens when a person gets that expunged? Say they're 28 and they got caught drinking when they were 18.
You may get it expunged, but you still got an FBI number.
And on NCIC, it'll still show up, but it'll show
That it was expunged.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, actually, a lot of times, depending upon what you do, they will completely remove it now. But it just, yeah, it pulls up your name and your date of birth and your address and all your pertinent information, and out there it has an FBI number and then no record.
Oh, okay, so they'll still have the number,
Yeah, you still got, once you
the
get an
reason they have the number will not be on.
right, once you get an FBI number, you got one, that's your FBI number forever.
Have like, I know on military bases and stuff, you can't, if you're a felon, you cannot go on that base. If it's expunged, is that the record that they see?
If it's expunged, they don't see that.
Okay.
But,
You can't get a felony expunged, can you?
if
Yes,
it's
you can.
nonviolent, after,
Yes, you
it
can.
takes,
10 years?
I was gonna say, it takes 10 years on nonviolent, 15 or 20 years on a violent felony, but you can get them expunged, and they're very expensive.
Yeah,
I know, but you
my
could-
cousin,
Some states won't let you expunge them.
Say again?
Some states won't let you expunge a felon.
The laws, yeah, and it's a point well taken.
Yeah.
The other piece of that is that the laws vary from state to state. Some states are a little more lenient, some states are a little more hard-nosed, and some states won't let you expunge it all, but there are,
there are certain programs
ways
you can
around
be in too, like Daily Report Center, if you
Yeah.
do it for a certain amount of time, they'll expunge it.
well, that's under the way it was sentenced, not
Oh, okay.
necessarily you going back and trying to get it expunged. But what I see coming in the future with that is I see, restoration of rights. You know, Virginia's governor has worked on restoration of rights, for, returning, felons coming back out of prison, to not necessarily give them their gun rights back, but to give them,
Non-violent.
reinstate their civil rights, let them vote, some things like that. And so I see a lot of that kind of stuff gaining traction and becoming more popular all over the country. I see people at least getting their civil rights back even after being a convicted felon. And I see it becoming easier in the future for, nonviolent felons to have their records expunged.
That's what it's up to state.
I would think, yeah. The one crime that I think should never be expunged, in my opinion, they should never take off and they should never give you that, make that go away or try to hide that, is sex offenders. I think sex offenders need to be, but those folks, those records need to be public and we need to have access to those because, once you are established as a sex offender or a violent sexual predator, chances are that behavior continues. It's not something that can be rehabilitated. Sex offense isn't something that necessarily be rehabilitated, so.
Which almost 99% I agree with, but then there are the people, the guy was 20, the girl was 16 or 15.
But what happens when you start doing that?
And then for the rest of his life though.
Well, but somebody like that don't have to register for the rest of their life. Somebody like that would only have to register for 10 years.
That's not necessarily the case. I actually just did, a follow-along internship with the sex. He's been working with an individual that has to do, 6 months registry, I think. And what happened to him was that, he was older than she was, they had a sexual relationship, and the parents of the female wanted him prosecuted.
Right.
He's now married to that woman, and they have 3 kids. He is on the sex
He
offender
still
registry,
has
will be
to.
for the rest of his life.
Yeah, those people can't be around, isn't supposed to be around certain.
But most of the time, most of those instances, that type of thing doesn't happen. The rest of your life registry. I've seen folks that have to register, depending upon the type of crime, depending upon the situation, they have to register for 10 years, 15 years, and then they come off the registry, and they reevaluate them. That young man, after a period of time, there may be a situation where, he doesn't have to register anymore. his situation can change, some of those are fluid. But there are some folks on the registry who need to be on the registry and who need to be on the registry
Yeah,
forever.
yeah.
However, the problem you run into with the sex offenders is, you have to be a little more hard-nosed with them because, you know, you take a guy that's done a couple B&Es and got caught for them, that's not such a risk to society, but sexual predators
What's a
are a huge
B&E?
risk
I'm
to
sorry.
society, and you can't
Breaking
let
into.
those rules
Oh, okay.
kind of slide. So anyway, I appreciate what we've done. We're running out of time. I appreciate what we've done with our, CompStat and with NCIC. The biggest pieces I wanted you to get out of CompStat and NCIC are, the fact that policy is, you know, they look at policy, they write policy based on CompStat, crime policy, new laws are created based on CompStat, money is spent based on CompStat, and NCIC is a database of criminal history of wanted and stolen. And that database is managed by
FBI.
the FBI. Well, guys, I don't know what's wrong with y'all. Y'all are struggling.
It's been a long week.
I'm saying. All right, so for next week, quickly, I want us to discuss data mining. I want us to discuss data mining. I want us to discuss how it's done, what the pitfalls are, who does it, what constitutional amendments it is affected, and how it's being done legally. Data mining, metadata collection, if you will.
Data mining by who? NSA or?
You tell me. State police, NSA, FBI, County Sheriff's Office, whoever's doing it. I want to know how they do it, why they do it, what the pitfalls are, and how they're operating in a legal manner. NSA is fine. That's what I want to know. And the next thing I want to know, I want us to talk about another, two things, again on Tuesday, is drones. I want to know what amendment or amendments cover drones. Drones. I want to know how drones affect our right to privacy, how they affect curtilage. What's curtilage? Is maintained. It's the area surrounding a house that is normally maintained. Your yard is your curtilage. How it affects curtilage? I want to know how police departments are justifying the use of this in court, use of drones in court. Are they using them to spy? Are they using them to collect evidence? Are they using them in accordance with any state laws that might exist? I want us to know how police departments are using these drones and how they've affected our laws. Questions?
Sorry.
Yeah. Just those two. Drones and data mining, metadata collection. All right, you all will. Make sure you email me your work from this week. I'm going to get your all stuff graded and get it back. You all hand your stuff in today, and I will see you all on Tuesday.
I think we quit for the, just normal, admin, I'm gonna do it for
Every Friday. Well, shit, it's Sunday.
No, we'll have more discussion on, thank you, you'll have more discussion on, thanks, sir, on,
Oh, you can hand that in, I did that on Mark.
you'll have more discussion questions on, police and police, you're not in my, yeah, you are you in my Wednesday night class?
That's division boarding.
Yeah, but I can't remember what classes I've got you in and what classes I don't. I have you on, yeah, and 11, and then I have you on Monday nights. You got Monday's class will have a discussion question and some scenario questions to answer. Use Firefox as the browser. okay? You go on there and pull it up, there's a couple of videos to watch and answer the questions. In last night's class?
Yeah.
It's on the board, it's on the,
I read it
blackboard.
and it's like, it wasn't like it was specific.
Yeah.
You read it?
Something about like a leader or something.
I want your input on what a leader is.
Okay.
Yeah, these are just opinionated questions.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I want your opinion, I want what you think.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. All right, thank you. Yes. Oh, I'm not through grading yet. What's your last name?
Ayers.
I had one of yours somewhere.
I heard you say the name.
Let me see if I can find it. Got a bunch of stuff in here I gotta work on tonight. I've got some more in here I've still got to grade, so you're all right. Okay. I'm digging through them. Nope, there's my test. Okay, good, no. I've got a, never mind, I've got a, hold on a minute, I've got a, here, that's what I meant to give you, not your test back, I'm sorry. You're standing there looking at me like I lost my mind, I couldn't figure it out, thank you. That's your homework assignment back. I handed you the wrong thing, I apologize. I just saw your name and handed it to you. Thank you, I apologize for that. You have a question of me and Beckley?
Oh, no, I'm just waiting for my next class.
Okay, all right, I just want to make sure you wasn't waiting on me.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Lee, are you learning anything from writing these?
My what?
Are you learning things from
Oh,
writing
yeah,
these?
absolutely. This is the other first one. Yeah. I didn't know anything about CompStat, never heard of it.
I like it.
Yeah.
I've seen it, I've never actually sat in a meeting where they use it, but I've seen it and kind of seen what the results are. It's amazing.